New chart predicts the evolution of my social circle. It's whittling away. Festo's got a whole new round of BioRobotica that is looking very organic. Another week and another shocking example of artificial intelligent video that is just moving so fast, so freaking fast. The uncanny valley looks like you can jump across it right now. I mean, as long as it's a mechanical elephant or a magical theater. Look at the way you can make a sofa go around a corner. It's mind-blowing. Look, it's going right. Look at that thing. The whole thing made it. That's crazy. There's now a website that uses AI to turn complicated text into just one of those TikTok Minecraft videos with like just a single word on screen. It's like the ultimate attention hack. Evolutionary anthropologists have a new theory about why it is that humans are dominating the world over animals. Alyssa Christensen wrote a thoughtful piece about the science behind attachment styles and what our relationships with AI say about us. I found an interesting piece about the psychology of people and how our brain might always be asking, is this a friend or a foe, without us knowing? There's a new crowdsourced, quote, final exam for large language models. But author Ethan Siegel is going to talk about how the idea and its implementation doom us to failure. And look, I know some of you have been asking about it, but I'm going to address the conspiracy theory about whether stars are real or not. I don't think it's a mirage, but I also understand how you might come to the conclusion that it's a cosmic paradox. All the big tech CEOs have now chimed in on Donald Trump, and it turns out that they're all unanimously in favor. Who would have thought? There's a new AI-powered e-nose, basically an electronic nose that can smell the air for chemicals, pollutants, and all sorts of other interesting things. It turns out that men seem to be more willing than women to accept robots as caregivers in old age. AI has now opened the door for finding out if somebody has diabetes or blood pressure without actually touching them. Yeah, just from a video. There was once an ambitious project to map the entire human genome. Now we have another great DNA challenge in front of us, a chance to sequence all DNA of all the complex life on Earth. But first, support the channel by clicking that join button right there underneath the video. For just $3, $7, or $15 a month, you can support content like this. That would be super helpful. Like, this is all honestly a labor of love. Like, I'm making no money on it. This is the evolution of my social circle starting from 2021. Now moving down the histogram, you can see by 2022, I'm making a real dent in my bar chart there. By 2023, I'm down to a single row of human friends. And in 2024, it's mostly Scarlett Johansson's voice. Yeah, there's a hack. You can still get to it if you want. Don't tell her. Check out that cool like ant and crab shaped robot. That's a biorobot. Imagine putting artificial intelligence in that thing. Or what about that little like snake thing with little wavies on it? Like that is very, very interesting for a robot design. Or swarm intelligence in the form of AI put into robotic ants. Yeah, that's something we should build trillions of. A friend sent me this YouTube video. AI Fascinated has been uploading some really interesting and intricate steampunk videos. All AI generated. Just gander at this with me, will you? Those elephants look like they could be straight up out of a Star Wars movie. I'm seeing very old school sci-fi here. Very human look to these female characters. I love the vibe in that theater. This guy's like Tesla or something rolling around in those electric time travel cars. I mean, look at the background and how everything's passing by with motion blur. There's wind on the cloth on his elbows. I mean, that's amazing that it's picking up on all these physics. You can see the steam on all these steam engines. Clearly, the young women in these videos are looking very attractive, realistic. I don't know. What can you say? Like, just take a second to appreciate where we are in the late 2024 when where we were a year ago was just... This wasn't even close to being on the table, which means I have to make some assumptions for next year that just seem crazy now. Maybe 20% of all content people view on social media by the end of next year is AI generated. Maybe that's 90% the year after that. I mean, that's a bold 24-month prediction, but you have to just kind of wonder. And even if I'm wrong, it's not a forever thing. Like by 2030, 2035, like all of media is going to be so different. All right. Ollie wrote on Medium, The Moving Sofa Problem, 50 Years Unsolved. In its simplest form, the problem is as follows. In a two-dimensional L-shaped corridor with a width equal to that of the width of the sofa, what is the maximum area the sofa can occupy while still being able to turn an L-shaped corner? You know, another shape that you can make to go around the corner would be half of a circle, and you can see it will pivot on the corner right there. But then, boom, look what happens in 1990. This guy, John Hammersley, he designs a sofa in the shape of a telephone handset. Broke the problem wide open. So this sofa design consists of two quadrants with a radius of 1 and a rectangle in between. Then he excludes and removes a semicircle from the rectangle. Boom, approximately 2.274. And you might be thinking, okay, that's the end, right? Certainly nothing, no shape could get around the corner bigger than that. But it has not been proven that Hammersley's sofa has the maximum area that can pass around the corner and is therefore not a solution. All right, now there's a modern mathematician that was able to make it just 2 or 3% larger with this design. And the cool thing about that is it can get around both corners. But look, if you have any ideas on how you can improve upon this problem, you should go for it. Like, this could be your claim to fame. I mean, couches around corners. It's a mystery wrapped in an enigma. In today's segment of I Wish I Was Kidding, I've got a new app for you. You take something that's hard to read, a book, a paper, whatever, you upload it, and in the same way ChatGPT can summarize something, so can this. And then you can use a tool where you only show 1 or 2 words on screen at a time, which is kind of a hack for making it so that you can read faster. And then you also put it on top of a Minecraft video, put it in vertical form content so it reads like a TikTok, and you have the most like ADHD version of a scientific paper. And it honestly, I think I would kind of like it, but I would be embarrassed to use it. So I'm not going to tell you if I'm using it or not. All right, next let's talk about the evolutionary anthropologist who presents a hypothesis about why humans are dominating the world over other animals. Now, I have sort of found it pretty interesting that there were other humans or hominids on Earth. Like we had the Neanderthal and the Denovians, I think they're called, in another species. And all of those species seem to be sort of comparable to the Homo sapiens that we have today. And then if you go back a couple million years, we have a common ancestor with what we'd say the bonobos and the chimpanzees. And there's intelligence all across this evolutionary tree. But why is it that only our specific branch seems to be so dominant in the world? I mean, there's something about language that seems like it's really important. There's something about opposable thumbs, a history of working together and cooperation. But I've always felt uncomfortable calling that the end of the story, right? And that's why I found this article really interesting. There's this new hypothesis that evolutionary anthropologist Thomas Morgan came up with, and it suggests that what sets humans apart isn't just the ability to accumulate culture, but also, quote, our open-endedness is what he thinks is the big differentiator. That is defined as the capacity to understand and imagine infinite possibilities. Okay, and to me, I had to sit back and think about this, because if you're telling me that other animals, like a dog or something, that can imagine something. They can imagine you coming home from work. They can imagine like when they're going to eat. Can they not imagine an infinite amount of those? Like, couldn't they imagine you coming home through any door in your house? Could they imagine any kind of food that they've eaten being the next meal they have? And I thought maybe they probably could. But then there's this argument that unlike animals, whose cultural evolution is often constrained, humans can create deeply complex processes like a multi-step tasks, and we can continually build upon them. And it made me wonder, maybe animals don't imagine with as much possibility as we do. I mean, clearly they're not maybe as many layered deep in their understanding of things, so maybe they wouldn't imagine that far, but I still kind of thought, even in a more simple way, they had an infinite amount of, or like a similar amount of possible things they could imagine. But it's got me thinking that maybe that's just not true. Like maybe I'm projecting that because that's how my brain works. And the article shows some examples. So they talk about a humpback whale and how they can create these sort of complex songs to communicate, or how ant colonies can conquer all sorts of complicated terrains. But in the same vein, if you look really close, those same animals do not have cultures that evolve. So they eventually hit limits in their creativity, whereas it does seem like humans are limitless. Like maybe we're not truly limitless, but maybe because it's like a multiplier effect, like there's essentially limitless ways you can take a deck of cards and reorder them, because it's just so close to countless, right? The number is like bigger than all the atoms in the universe, so it's kind of limitless. Like maybe humans have sort of stepped over that certain multiplier effect and animals haven't. You know, the very last couple multipliers make the number so much bigger that it starts to approach infinity. And that's why this theory is kind of interesting, because it would use that to predict that our culture will keep progressing without stopping, making this open-ended nature a unique trait of the human species. All right, our girl Alyssa Christensen is at it again with the AI Era newsletter on LinkedIn. You should subscribe right now. And the article is called Attachment Styles in AI, What Our Relationships with AI Say About Us. Now, first off, I want to mention that when it comes to a lot of relationship stuff like Myers-Briggs or the love languages, I don't know if they should really be considered truly legitimate sciences. Maybe heuristics, maybe there's interesting patterns, but attachment theory is much more grounded. ChatGPT says that it's widely considered a legitimate science. Attachment theory has been extensively studied and supported by decades of empirical research. So there have been classic experiments like Mary Ainsworth's strange situation study, which have demonstrated consistent attachment patterns, secure, avoidant, ambivalent, and later disorganized. There's also interdisciplinary invalidation. Neuroscience researchers found the attachment-related behaviors correspond to brain activity, and attachment theory informs therapeutic practices like emotionally focused therapy and has been linked to better outcomes in mental health. So I found it interesting to think about how she compares these natural attachment styles to what it's like when we're interacting with artificial intelligent chatbots like ChatGPT. I am sure that they will quickly figure out on an individual basis if you are one of the anxious or avoidant or secure attachment styles, because those patterns will come out in the way we communicate with it. And in theory, it would probably also learn to best communicate with you by picking up on those patterns and doing what's best for somebody who's maybe avoidant by like not interrupting too much or giving them space, or somebody who's anxious kind of like chiming in and reassuring them more often. And it feels like we should be trying to move towards a secure attachment style. So like Alyssa says, a secure relationship with AI represents comfort and trust, with humans seeing AI as reliable support. This type of bond may encourage healthy human-AI collaboration where the AI assists without diminishing human agency. And why would we want that? Well, because individuals with secure attachment styles can balance the belief of AI with their own autonomy. So let's all try to be securely attached to our artificial avatar AI chatbot companions. Okay, people? We want to get it right. Next up, I want to talk about an article on Medium called What Do You Do? What's Your Religion? Are You Part of My Clan? And it's about how the brain, in a weird way, might be asking, even if it doesn't feel like words in your own head, like instinctively, whether or not everything and everyone that you interact with is friend or foe, like a very binary choice, and how that might be affecting your everyday interactions. It was written by Renee F. Najira on Medium, and it's a story that reflects the human tendency to categorize people into just these two binary choices, friend or foe, good or bad, like helpful or hurtful. And it might be rooted in the brain's hardwired basis. So maybe this is something, if we're aware of, we can kind of consciously note it and maybe get away from it. And in the story, he shares his personal experience from facing cultural and racial assumptions after moving from a predominantly Hispanic city to a mostly white town, and navigating questions about his own identity and his religions and his professional settings, and how his brain and his biases were always just kind of part of this evolutionary mechanism, and how that could easily become a source of social division, right? You're just like blue or red, or like you work for my company or that company. Like my school versus your school, immigration, like where you came from. Like it's just so easy to be binary. And I think there might be something sort of dangerous. Maybe you've heard of like divide and conquer. Well, that might play out in tiny little ways all the time in our lives, like law enforcement, workplace discrimination. And maybe if we start to notice it, we can also be the first to apologize, or kind of maybe there's something a little more humble that can come from knowing, oh, maybe what you said doesn't really bother me that much. Maybe I just accidentally put you in a friend or foe category and now need to just step back and like remember that that's too binary for this world. All right, next up, written on Medium, Ethan Siegel, Why Humanity's Last Exam Will Ultimately Fail. It is a crowdsourced final exam for AI that promises to test LLMs like never before. And here's how the idea and its implementation dooms us to fail. Okay, so the crux of this article is that we might be learning what AI memorizes and not actually what it's learned with many of the tests that we have. And right now there's this push to create an ultimate test, a test that they call Humanity's Last Exam, and it's for AI to take, and it's to find out if we have AGI, ASI, or something more like controllable. So this proposed test is going to be designed with difficult questions to assess if AI expert level capabilities are indeed present. But depending on how we make these, we could very easily inadvertently mask real limitations by favoring memorization over reasoning. And we talk about this a lot with AI being next token prediction in terms of these large language models. Like, what do you know in the distance between all of those tokens and what is memorized? It's a very difficult question. And if you assume that these AI systems are largely algorithms just built from training data, and their accuracy is limited by the quality of the data, then they're probably memorizing a lot of it. But sometimes the magic is in the details. The devil is in the details. Like, it's weird because LLMs excel at some tasks where they kind of seem like they're reasoning or they're inferring or they're tackling these nuanced questions in ways that are very knowledgeable. And then in some ways they just flat out fail. And you're like, you memorized that and then you repeated it? Like, how did you answer this question so intelligently and this one not? And that makes me think that it's in there somewhere and we haven't figured out the architecture or how to measure it, but it could be memorization or it could be actual intelligence, and there's something very subtle about it. Maybe even in our own heads. Maybe sometimes we're just regurgitating something we memorized and sometimes we're having an insight, and it does fluctuate back and forth. But he gets to a good point in the article. The fundamental flaw of such exams is the reliance on multiple choice questions, on test memorized knowledge rather than genuine intelligence. So we'll have to be careful when we start saying, hey, is that system intelligent or not? All right, so for those of you, or the one or two of you that seem to believe that stars are an illusion, just a cosmic paradox, I'm going to look into it for you. Written by Thomas Vick. Are the stars just a mirage? The cosmic paradox that will bend your mind. So you think the stars are real? Lie on your back, look up at the night sky, and marvel at the tiny pinpricks of light. But what if I told you it's all an illusion? What if the stars, planets, and the whole cosmic circus are nothing more than shadow puppets dancing on the screen of your consciousness? This rabbit hole has no bottom. Reality versus perception. This is why I hate having like a solid opinion of something, because I think the stars exist, but I guess it depends on my definition of stars and existence. Okay, so we're getting a little meta here. We're thinking kind of abstractly and sort of far away from our everyday present moment, and we're asking, is everything kind of just an illusion that's crafted by consciousness? All right, so what he's doing here is he's trying to challenge our belief in a quote out there universe, kind of a brain in a vat theory. Everything that's coming into my eyes has to be processed. So what is out there in the first place? Because there's certainly parts of the electromagnetic spectrum that I can't see. There's certainly quantum mechanical phenomenon. There's electromagnetism. I guess that's the same as light, but like I can't, magnetic north is not something I have a sense for. And I do sometimes wonder if everything that I sense when I feel awake is dreamed into existence in the same way the dreams I get when I'm just like sleeping at home versus what I have now, but it's more stable, it's more consistent, and the patterns are more reliable. But then again, in my dreams, you know, there isn't like stuff that I can knock on, and the day doesn't pass in a linear way with time, and we can't all have dreams and invent things and share them with one another. Then they build into a coherent story. Like, you can't test the scientific method when you're asleep. But I can't argue that some of reality when I'm awake feels like a mirage. And he argues in this piece that the universe is like a cosmic funhouse mirror. It twists reality into convincing spectacles, and ultimately it asserts that consciousness, not the physical world, is the only constant. And that those stars out there do not exist. It's up here. Or as the author says, is an awareness that perceives the ultimate cosmic joke. All right, let's talk about how artificial intelligence is actually being used in what's called e-noses. These are electronic noses that smell the environment around us. And some of the really interesting things that they can do is detect oil spills efficiently, measure pollution, and make predictions about the quality of life in cities. So researchers have trained an e-nose which detects chemicals in the air. And it's interesting because there are some devices that already do this, but they don't work nearly as well because they don't have artificial intelligence applied. And this new e-nose is 20 times less expensive than those sophisticated devices and can also detect a wider range of things. And since it's just a model that can keep learning from more and more smells, it's also something that can exponentially get better at this. So technically what it's doing is it's analyzing these things called VOCs. They're volatile organic compounds. And this new device is portable, it's cost effective, it mimics the human sense of smell. And it's trained using a random forest artificial intelligence model and has in the field identified oil sources just hours after a spill, making it useful for monitoring soil contamination, refinery emissions, oil field productivity, and researchers plan to commercialize the device and explore teaching it to sense odors of a human and like a human. Speaking of things that stink, all of the big tech CEOs have weighed in on President Trump. After Donald Trump's election victory, Mark Zuckerberg was quick to congratulate the president on a decisive victory, going on to say that we have great opportunities ahead of us as a country, looking forward to working with you and your administration. Sam Altman also seems to be a big fan. Congratulations to President Trump. I wish for huge success in his job. CEO of Apple, Tim Cook. Congratulations, President Trump, on your victory. Looking forward to engaging with you and your administration to help make sure the United States continues to lead with and be fueled by ingenuity, innovation, and creativity. Jeff Bezos said, big congratulations to our 45th and now 47th president on an extraordinary political comeback and decisive victory. CEO of Google, Sundar Pichai, said, congratulations. We're in a golden age of American innovation and committed to working with this administration to help bring those benefits to everyone. And the CTO of Microsoft, Satya Nadella, congratulations, President Trump. We're looking forward to engaging with you and your administration to drive innovation forward and create a new growth opportunity for the United States and the world. And of course, Bill Gates, former CEO of Microsoft, congratulations to President Trump and VP-elect Vance. America is at its strongest when we use ingenuity and innovation to improve lives here in the U.S. and around the world. I hope we can work together now to build a brighter future for everyone. Well, at least we're getting some kind of AI alignment. You know, AI alignment, big tech, that's something. So I didn't know what to think about this. I was like, I guess I could see how men would be more comfortable with like a robot helping them, you know, so it's like not embarrassing. Or maybe there's something a little like less kind of emotional about it and it's more of like a utilitarian or tool thing, and maybe men see help like that is a little bit more acceptable. But maybe as these robots become more human in the way we interact with them, it'll be something that's less gender specific. The study analyzed attitudes across 28 European countries, factoring in local conditions like GDP and elder care spending. And the key insights included that younger, educated people and those in professional jobs are more comfortable with robot care, especially with regions with less spending on elder care. So, I mean, I guess that kind of makes sense. Like, if you don't have much, then you welcome the robots a bit more. But there's things like the local context and whether or not there's high female employment that strongly shape the views. So policymakers are urged to balance investing in robotic solutions with supporting human care to ensure that the tech complements rather than replaces human connection. Hope so too. I mean, especially if we get to this world where there really isn't that many jobs and like a lot of people need to do kind of like useless jobs in terms of like GDP and creation. They could do useful jobs in terms of social connection and making people like feel human, and that'll be of value more and more in the future. So there's an interesting new use of artificial intelligence that's out in the wild now. It is a new AI-powered system in Japan that uses high-speed video and algorithms to detect high blood pressure and diabetes without the need for blood tests or one of those measuring cuffs. This is cool. Like, I love when we can use AI to make life this much more simple. I mean, I guess unless we're using it to like then persuade people or manipulate them, but that's the double-edged sword of all this. The point is, the tool analyzes subtle changes in blood flow captured in just 5 to 30 seconds of video footage from the face and palm. So the tool shows promising accuracy and it's non-invasive. I mean, like, boom, put the hands up there for 5 seconds and then you know if I have diabetes. 94% accurate for hypertension and 75% accurate for diabetes. While still in early development, researchers envision this tech as a quick, contactless health screening option for home use. And with future improvements, if you think about it, it could be a game changer for early detection, monitoring, potentially integrated into smartphones. So we could just kind of use it. Maybe it just detects it from the skin in your face in the future. And then every time you unlock your device, it's also kind of like, whoa, your heart rate's up or something. And now let's talk about a truly ambitious project, one to sequence all the DNA of all complex life on Earth. Okay, so this is called the Earth Biogenomic Project, and it is an ambitious effort to sequence all of the DNA of all eukaryotic life on Earth. That means plants, animals, fungi, and to do all of this and create a truly massive genetic database. This moonshot project will cost an estimated, wait for it, $4.7 billion. Actually, now that I think about $100 billion like clusters of servers from Microsoft and Google and X, it's like, that's really not that crazy. I mean, it's still crazy, like $4.7 billion, but I mean, that's like nothing to Elon Musk when you think about it. Anyways, it aims to uncover the secrets of biodiversity and inspire innovations in medical. And I think it's going to make a big difference. Like, you can address issues like food security and climate change in a lot of really interesting ways if we can understand all of the DNA on Earth. And we can get some kind of a sense how it all comes together. We can correlate it to what we see in the environment. AI in the future will help us sort through these massive data sets, massive visual information of the climate. Like, this is going to be awesome. So obviously there's a ton of challenges in this, but there are thousands of genomes that have been sequenced. And there's a lot of, we haven't even discovered all of the species on Earth. So it's going to be a long time. But this is a cool project. It's a global collaboration involving 28 countries. But even just expanding that biodiversity conversation or synthetic biology and like what to do with all this DNA is just worth the time. And it's going to give us such a deep understanding of evolutionary history when we put all these puzzle pieces together. I bet it tells so much about like what it is, what DNA like came from what part of the tree, when did it branch off, and we're going to learn all these things about us as people just following our chain all the way back. So super excited that a project like that is being talked about and is kind of underway now. Okay, so I know what you're thinking. By now, you're probably asking about my new haircut. I mean, I don't know if it's been driving you nuts the whole time, but instead of swooping to the right, I found a new person that does my hair, and they were it was so cool. Like, they measured my head and the apex of my skull. She realized that my cowlick needed to sit a certain way. So now my hair like lives in the forward direction instead of to the swoop direction. So, I mean, I just want to address the elephant in the room. And if you're interested in helping me with future haircuts, please join my Patreon. Right under this video, you can see a link to it. If you click right there, you will be presented with these three choices to either give $2.99 a month, $6.99 a month, or $14.99 a month to help this channel create great content. I would super appreciate it. I'm still a really small creator, and I put way more time and money into this than it makes just because I love it. And honestly, my last few videos, they haven't really been like growing the channel like I hoped. I mean, nothing wrong with it. I'm not going to complain about videos with 3,000 or 4,000 views, but now that I'm kind of crawling up on 18,000 subs, which I appreciated, I was really hoping to kind of live in the 7 to 10 range a bit more. Obviously, too much political opinion in there, so nobody wanted any of that, so we'll just shut our mouths on that for a while. But these videos were like, meh, I thought they were kind of good. So I was kind of bummed. Could have been a titling issue or whatever, but you can see on the analytics, it kind of just tapered on the low end of my average, like right away. Still gained 11 subscribers, which isn't the worst, but I often can get to like 40 or 50 if I'm lucky. I mean, click-through rate wasn't terrible. I'm thankful for the 30,000 impressions. Most people came in from the browse and suggested, like usual, a little bit more. It looks like the text soaring into the unknown performed the worst with the thumbnail A/B testing. And you preferred AI Digest a little bit more than AI News, which is unusual, but they're so close. That could have just been, random. Let's see. This is the video suggesting my content the most. So Matthew Berman. Okay. You guys came over here from Matthew's video. I appreciate you. And then AI Fixes Polar Express. Ooh, I kind of want to see that video. Oh, Tim, that's my boy, Theoretically Media. I met Tim in real life and had like a dinner with him, and I had like so much fun. He's awesome. Definitely subscribe to him and Matthew Berman too. Subscribe to all these guys. Be part of, we got a whole like little community here, you can subscribe to us all. Ooh, got my joke. Do you mean to say that your video contains literal B-roll? It does. I get picking up what you're putting down. My robotic finger is giving you the thumbs up. Oh, we got some thoughts on the Norman doors. Yeah, door handles are frequently aesthetics these days. I know, that's what I'm saying. Aesthetics is taking over utility, and it's making us less efficient at opening doors. All right, we'll take your comment too. Let's make a song out of this. All right, what kind of music you guys thinking today? Ooh, Afro house mixed with a little bit of witch house. Anything else with the word house in here? Nope, then that's what it's gonna be. All right, let's jam.
You mean to say that your videos contain literal B-roll? My robot robotic finger is giving you a thumbs up. Appreciate you, Dylan. Door handles are frequently aesthetic these days, so use the basic rule system instead. Entrances open into the building or room from the sidewalk or corridor. Emergency exits, patio and balcony doors open outwards. If anyone needs to break these rules, they should add a sign. If still in doubt, think if this door was left open all the time, which way would least annoying to passers-by? If the architect fails at all of these, then it's probably okay, just torch the building, check with local ordinance, but it's polite to make sure the building is empty. People fleeing will get confused by the doors.
Ooh, it's picking up steam now. Ooh, these Norman Door songs, getting grimy. Kind of wholesome and beautiful too.
Finger is giving you a thumbs up. Appreciate you, Dylan.
Thanks.
Door handles are frequently aesthetic these days, so use the basic rule system instead. Entrances open into the building or room from the sidewalk or corridor. Emergency exits, patio and balcony doors open outwards. If anyone needs to break these rules, they should add a sign. If still in doubt, think if this door was left open all the time, which way would least annoying to passers-by? If the architect fails at all of these, then it's probably okay to just torch the building, check with local ordinance.
I don't know about torching the building.
To make sure the building is empty. People fleeing will well get confused by the doors. People fleeing will well get confused by the doors.
Dude, I can't wait to hear what V4 sounds like. That's sick. Join the Patreon, join the channel, leave a super thanks, share the video with people, watch it all the way through and leave a comment. All of that stuff means the world to me. See you guys in the next video.
People fleeing will well get confused by the doors.
My robotic finger is giving you a thumbs up. Appreciate you, Dylan.
Door handles are frequently aesthetic these days, so use the basic rule system instead.
Entrances open into the building or room from the sidewalk or corridor.
Emergency exits, patio and balcony doors open outwards.
If anyone needs to break these rules, they should
Kind of
add
a
a
jam. I
sign.
like the beat.
If still in doubt, think if this door was left open all the time, which way would least annoying to passers-by?
Yeah, which way would it go?
If the architect fails at all of these, then it's probably okay to just torch the building. Check with local ordinance.
But it's polite to make sure the building
It
is
is.
empty.
People fleeing will well get confused by the doors.
It is polite. Make sure you hit that join button if you're on YouTube. Join the Patreon. Share the video. Leave a super thanks. Write a comment, whatever. All of it helps. I appreciate it.
My robotic finger is giving you a thumbs up.
Your robotic finger, you too.
Door handles are frequently aesthetic these days, so use the basic rule system instead. Entrances open into the building or room from the sidewalk or corridor. Emergency exits, patio and balcony doors open outwards. If anyone needs to break these rules, they should add a sign. If still in doubt, think if this door was left open all the time, which way would least annoying to passers-by? If the architect fails at all of these, then it's probably okay to just torch the building. Check with local ordinance. But it's polite to make sure the building is empty. People fleeing will get confused by the doors. If the architect fails at all of these, it's probably okay to just torch the building. Check with local ordinance.
But it's polite to make sure the building is empty.
People fleeing will get confused by the doors. People fleeing will get confused by the doors.
Okay, I'll see you guys in the next video.